so that they know that funds are potentially available to help. Just at a high level, the Homeowner Assistance Fund is a program that came out of the pandemic, and DC was awarded $50 million in federal funds. And those funds are to help homeowners who had a hardship coming out of the pandemic, to help catch up on mortgage payments and also other housing related payments. So that includes things like condo, HOA dues, property taxes, homeowners insurance, and also some utilities and internet assistance. So it is a program essentially that is it's a broad program. It is a reinstatement program. So basically the goal of the program is, if you're a DC homeowner and you're behind, for example, on your mortgage, the program, if you're eligible, will reinstate your mortgage arrears, or your condo dues, or your property taxes, or your homeowner's insurance. And just to kind of talk a little bit about, sort of what the program can cover, it can be used, the financial assistance that can be provided is actually really quite extensive. Arrears, the program can pay up to $100,000 in arrears. And that's for sort of past due payments. And in certain circumstances, the program can also cover a more limited amount of going forward payments. And so for certain categories of things like, for example, property taxes or HOA dues, mortgage payments, if a homeowner needs help catching up, but also needs a little bit of help going forward, you can also potentially get up to $18,000 in going forward assistance as well. The caps for utility assistance are substantially lower. So homeowners who are behind on like electricity, gas, or water bills could get up to $4,000 in assistance. And there is a $1,000 cap on internet and broadband services. And there is a sort of lifetime cap on homeowner assistance fund assistance of $120,000. So basically, if you're if a DC homeowner is behind on sort of any one of these property payments, you can potentially apply for assistance for any number of these categories to try to help you get caught up. One really exciting thing about this program is that the program is in the form of a grant. So if a homeowner qualifies for assistance, then that's not money that will have to be paid back, which is different than some sort of previous homeowner assistance programs that have been available in the past in the district. So if a homeowner is eligible, the program will pay directly, the mortgage company or the condo association, whoever is whatever entity is owed the money, that payment will go directly to them, but the homeowner will not have to pay the money back. It's a grant. I wanted to talk just a little bit kind of about how to apply and sort of the eligibility criteria. The application is entirely online, and I'm happy. What I can do actually, if that's okay, is I can put the website in the chat so that everyone can see it. Is that? Let's see. I don't know if I actually.
So I know we're having technical difficulties with the chat.
Oh, okay.
But you should be able to access to drop something within it.
Okay. Hopefully that worked. Did that show up for folks?
If you, when you hover over to the chat, if you click on everyone, it should be able to allow people to see the link that you're sharing.
For some reason, seems like it's only allowing me to send it to the hosts and panelists.
Got it. Let me take a look.
Oh,
okay, just shared it with everybody.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so the homeowner assistance fund is an online application, and thank you so much, Commissioner, for putting the link in the chat. That is the website that homeowners who want to apply for the program should use. It does require an email address, and then, like I said, everything is online. And the website, I think, actually is really good in terms of going through all the basic eligibility criteria and having pretty detailed information about what homeowners need in order to apply. But I'll just sort of quickly touch on the basic eligibility criteria. But essentially, in order to be eligible, you have to be a district homeowner, or you can be an heir of a district homeowner if you're living in a property, and can provide documentation of the fact that you are an heir of a deceased owner. You need to be behind on one of the payments that I talked about before. So, it could be mortgage, condo, property taxes, property insurance, utilities, but you have to be behind on something. There is an income limit for the program, which is available on the website. So it varies by household size, but the baseline limit is 100% of area median income. And the program can assist up to 150% of area median income for the mortgage reinstatement program for people who identify as socially disadvantaged, which is a term that the federal government defined as people who belong to a group whose ability to purchase or own a home has been diminished due to access to credit on reasonable terms. So there is some wiggle room on the income guidelines, depending on whether you identify as being a member of that group. And then the other sort of basic criteria is that you have had some sort of COVID-related hardship. And this program defines that quite broadly. And so I don't know, I'm guessing that some people may remember or be familiar with the STADC program for rental assistance, which only covered rental arrears that accrued during the pandemic. This program is actually much broader, so it's okay. You can still potentially be eligible if you were behind, for example, on your mortgage before the pandemic hit. Really, what the program requires is even if you were behind before, things got worse because of the pandemic. So either you could have fallen behind because of the pandemic, or things just got worse or more difficult. And so can be any number of things, right? It could be loss of employment, or it could just be increase in expenses, things like that. If you suddenly had really a lot more expenses because your kids were learning at home and your energy bills were increased and your grocery bills increased, all of that. So it's a pretty broadly defined COVID hardship. And so those are sort of that really is the basic threshold criteria, those things. And the way the application works is there's a bunch of documentation that homeowners need to provide, provide proof that they're a homeowner, that they're a district resident, provide proof of the arrears that they're asking for help on, all of that. But that is sort of the baseline criteria. And you do have to have lived in your home, as the home that you're seeking help for has to be your primary residence since June 1st, 2021. So those are the big parameters of the program. I really just, like I said, we at Legal Aid have been helping people apply, also referring homeowners to housing counseling organizations across the city, but really just trying to spread the word and make sure that people know about the program. So I'm happy to answer questions. I also sent, we have an outreach flyer in both English and Spanish that I shared with Commissioner Cobb that, you're welcome to share more broadly with, constituents, but basically just want people to know about the program and how to get help applying.
Great, thank you so much. This will be our time that we allow commissioners to ask questions, and then we'll get questions from the public. Residents of 5D, please use the Q&A function to ask any questions for any of the presenters today. I believe the chat is working now. Feel free to tinker with it if you like. But my first question is, what is the dynamic between this program and the homeowners? And the companies or entities that they owe money to, like, is this one of these things where they get paid directly to them and they make these payments, or do you all interact with some of those agencies or mortgages directly on the back end?
Yeah. So you mean what is the communication happening between the program and these companies? Yeah. So basically, what happens is when the homeowner submits their application, they are also submit an authorization form authorizing the DC government, and the agency that is administering the program is the Department of Housing and Community Development, and gives DHCD permission to talk with, the mortgage company or the condo association. So basically, initially the homeowner is providing all the documentation, but then, if someone is approved and the agency is getting ready to make payment, they will also be in contact directly, with the mortgage company asking for an updated account statement, updated balance, or in contact with the condo association. And then we'll make payment directly to those entities. So basically, so mortgage companies, associations, all of that have to register as vendors essentially with the district in order to receive payment.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions from the commission? Nope, no questions. Okay, any questions from the public? Looking at the Q&A, I don't see any questions directly associated with this presentation. Okay, is there any deadlines that, just last question for me, is there any deadlines that need to be met with this kind of program?
Yeah, so the program is open until the money runs out, and our sense is they're not close to the money running out. There was a big push for people to apply prior to September 30th of this year, and the reason for that was the DC Council passed legislation where if someone applied to the Homeowner Assistance Fund before September 30th and provided notice to their mortgage company or condo, whoever it was, whichever entity they were behind on, they would be protected from foreclosure excuse me, until their application was, fully processed and reviewed, and if approved, until payment was made. And so that protection, unfortunately, is not an ongoing protection right now. But the program is very much still open, and people can and should apply. So if you see something sort of out there about the September 30th deadline, that is likely in reference to that, but the program is very much open. And so really, we just encourage people to, if they're behind, to apply, sooner rather than later, because there are a lot of applications in the pipeline, and the processing time thus far has been quite slow, but there is no deadline.
So you would recommend this even if someone's a month behind?
Well, so good question. So depends on what type of assistance you're asking for. So for example, actually mortgage assistance, you have to be 3 months behind.
Okay.
So and all of that is on the website. But I think, again, because of processing times and how long things are taking, getting applications in sooner rather than later is helpful.
Especially if you kind of foresee being even further behind, maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jenny. We appreciate you coming out tonight to our public meeting here on Zoom, and we look forward to hoping that if anyone needs these services, that they do reach out, because they seem like a pretty good program right now in the city.
Yeah, thank you so much. I can actually, one other thing I just wanted to mention. So, and this is on the flyer that I shared with Commissioner Cobb, and also on the website, but there are housing counseling agencies across the city helping people with their applications. I think the biggest one that is helping people is Housing Counseling Services, which is in Adams Morgan. But in terms of, Ward 5, I think that University Legal Services, which I believe maybe in Ward 5, I don't know that off the top of my head, but the full list of housing counseling organizations is on the HAF website. So there are ones that could potentially be closer if someone wants to go in person somewhere and get some help with their application.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. Can you drop any contact information just in case someone needs to reach out to you in the chat?
Sure. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on with the agenda, I believe we have a presentation from DDOT. Do we have any of the presenters on the call today?
Commissioner, I see Delando Baker on the call. We're looking for Will Hansfield. He just messaged me and said that he would call in within the next 5 minutes. So maybe if we could have the next person.
Yeah, we'll skip. We have going on to the next presentation. We'll come back to the DDOT one as they get situated. Brighter, Better Connected DC Smart Street Light Project. Ashley is on here. I'm promoting you to panelists.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, Ashley, how are you?
Doing well. We actually have a presentation from Sharon Wilder, and we have Anna Hasagawa on the line.
Okay, just a second. Let's see if we can get them situated. Can you repeat the names?
Sharon Wilder
Anna.
and Anna Hasagawa.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, Sharon, if you see notification to join as panelists, please go ahead and join.
Okay.
They might have stepped away.
Okay. Let's see.
I don't know if you can reach them.
Um,
Because I see Jamal Jordan's on the line and he's the next one. So I know we can get him started if you want to wait for Sharon.
yeah, we can go ahead and wait. If not, I can go ahead and do it if, once Jamal finishes, we can't connect still.
Okay. I hope Jamal is not stepped away from his computer at this time. Mr. Jordan, I'm promoting you to panelist. Where's my light again?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good. Actually, I do have a presentation. I'm able to share my screen and pull up the presentation.
Okay.
Can you all see the presentation?
Yes, and just to inform the public correctly, this is PEPCO presenting on the Trinidad substation demolition update, and this is Mr. Jamal Jordan. Mr. Jamal Jordan, thank you so much for joining us today to inform us on what's going on.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, everyone. My name is Jamal Jordan. I'm a Senior External Affairs Specialist for PEPCO, and I'll be presenting on, we're doing some PEPCO work, which is actually in your neighborhood, the Trinidad substation, which is no longer in commission, and we're doing current demolition of the property. And here's the update I wanted to provide to you all. Trinidad substation, our overview, The Trinidad substation, as you guys know, is located on 1438 Trinidad Avenue Northwest. It was slated for demolition in early May of 2022, but due to some technical difficulties and some permitting issues, got postponed. And now we started demolition in November, and which has begun, and it will be completed by the end of this year. The substation has not been in operation since 1999, and the remaining equipment was removed last year. And the property we're going to be selling, but right now we have it over with our real estate department. And once we have further information on when we'll sell and who we'll sell it to, we'll make sure. And I understand you guys sent a letter advising on who you guys were interested in the property going to the district government, and just wanted to let you guys know that we received that letter. The demolition process, I put my colleague Melinda Breen, she's the project manager. She wasn't able to join the call today, but I have her information here, and make sure if there's any questions or any you may have that I can't answer, I'll make sure I get back with our team and we can follow up with you guys. The demolition process, the substation will be demolished in segments. The process we anticipate to last about 30 days, barring the weather. And you can expect to see the following activities: a temporary fence that will be installed around the perimeters of the property. Demolition will remain in the fence perimeters of the building. Trucks will be used to transport materials from the site. The alley will remain free of debris. There will be some noise that you can expect, but we make sure that, we're understanding we're working in a residential area, so we're being mindful of that. And then the structure will remain fenced and secured after hours, so for a security reason. And then crews are permitted to work Monday through Friday, and it'll be from 9:30 to 3:30. And then we have our traffic control plans, where we have our signage that was placed along Metello Avenue Northeast, Owens Place Northeast, Trinidad Avenue Northeast, and Queen Street Northeast to accommodate the traffic control requirements. We have some parking that is expected to be reserved to accommodate trucks. We also have crews that accommodate through traffic in the alley. Neighbors must not place their trash cans along the temporary fence during demolition activities. And then also we want to please adhere to all emergency no parking signs and traffic control measures. Our community engagement is myself, Jamal Jordan, Senior External Affairs Specialist. And then also I have my colleague, Travorce Culpepper, who's Manager of Strategic Programs. We're both working on this project and just making sure if there's any issues or any things you want to give us feedback, we'll be your eyes and ears and make sure to address any issues. But also we'll have our contact information on the following slide. And through our community engagement, PEPCO is committed to maintaining close relationships with residents and businesses through our project phases, receiving input affected neighbors through community meetings and presentations like this, providing project information and updates, including construction location and hours. And then also from my information here is myself, Jamal Jordan, like I said before, Senior External Affairs Specialist, my phone number, 202-629-6977, and then my email address, jamal.jordan@pepco.com. And then you also have my colleague, Travorce Culpepper, Manager of Strategic Programs, and his phone number, 202-428-1052. And then his email is tculpepper@pepco.com. And then that concludes my presentation, and I'm open up for any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. So this is a portion where we allow the commissioners to ask questions before the residents. Residents of 5D, again, use the Q&A feature to ask any questions on this presentation. I'll read them over to Mr. Jordan once they're available there. Commissioners, are there any questions? I know Commissioner Cobb, this is your SMD. You can go ahead and ask the first question.
Yeah, I have three things. First, this substation, actually, my house backs up to it. So I've gotten front row 24/7 seats to the demolition, which it's really been something. I see, according to the permits and according to the presentation, the demolition is allowed between 9:30 and 3:30. But I can personally confirm that the crews have been out there and started working every time they go out there between 7 and 7:30 a.m.
Okay. Crews are working. Okay, I'll touch base with them. Through 7 and okay.
The second thing is, I remember when I did the walkthrough with the contractors, and I believe Traverse was there too. They explained that the first step in the process would be to remove an asbestos-lined pipe that runs under the substation. And I'm not sure if they did that or not. I just would like confirmation that they did do that, because they have demolished the building completely and now they're jackhammering out the foundation.
And you would say, I can confirm that all the equipment that was inside the substation has been removed.
I'm not talking about the equipment. I remember the equipment when I heard those buzz saws on the metal transformers for a week on end. I'm talking about the asbestos lined pipe that is underground under the station.
Okay. Asbestos lined pipe under the substation. I'll follow up with that. Our contractors that's doing the work is Stella May, that is doing that, and I'll touch base with them. The asbestos line pipe that was follow up on. Okay.
And the final thing is, I understand that the plan is to level the site or grade it as much as possible, and then lay down sod. But as far as I know, that was the plan back when the sod was going to be laid in June or July. But now it sounds like it's going to be laid in December.
Yeah, December. Yeah, we'll finish it at the end of the year. But that was the last time I talked with them. We were still going to put down the sod down, and I know we're looking at the winter time. But we were just going to, after removing all the structure, we were going to have the sod down and have it secured until we sell the property and go to the next steps.
Are there any agreements in place to have sod laid down or continue to be laid down into the spring? Because if it's laid down in December, it's not going to grow, and then it's just going to become a mud pit in the spring and be a mosquito haven.
Gotcha. I can follow up about the sod and just see, I understand your concerns on that. And you're saying that you're seeing, since it's being done in the wintertime, could it be another time in the springtime if the property is not sold? Just to make sure that to prevent any mosquitoes and things from the spring and summertime coming.
Right. I know that there's an agreement in place with, I think it's with one of the contractors, to maintain the property, maintain the sod for a year. I just want to make sure that those agreements, even if they're laying sod in December, which is fine, they'll actually come out and lay it down again when it'll actually grow.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll follow up on that, and because I know the sod is laid down, but I'll make sure to see what our status is on continuing with the sod, especially as if we lay down sod, especially now in the wintertime, the fact that in the springtime and summertime, we may need to lay it down again. So I'll follow up with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rhodes, do you still have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, was there an environmental impact assessment done on the site?
I have to check on that. I know that we're always regulated by Department of Environment. So anything that we do, we have our work that is done and monitored through the Department of Environment. So any type of construction and work that we have to do is regulated through that. But I can check with our project manager and just see about the environmental study.
When you come across it, can you email it to us, please?
Got you. Environmental study.
Perfect. Do any other commissioners have any other questions? We have one question in the Q&A from a resident. a well-known resident that does a lot for the community. Kevin Horgan has a question, Mr. Jordan. Would PEPCO provide the 4 homeowners at 1267, 1269, 1271, and 1273 Penn Street Northeast a first opportunity to bid on the alley lot so that their respective backyards could be extended, similar to the other side of Penn Street Northeast? Those 4 lots have relatively short yards, and it seems like those homeowners would benefit from yards that are configured like the other homes on the opposite side of Penn Street Loop.
That's a good question. I would have to get back. I mean, it's with our real estate department, and I know that they're currently will evaluate all the avenues about the property, but right now it's still the beginning phases of in the process of selling. And once the property has been removed, I know our real estate department is going to look over and review, but they still haven't. When I met with them the other day, they still have not made any decisions on how they're going to move forward with the property. But the property will be sold, but we just still don't have. We're still at the beginning phases.
Understood. Okay, Mr. Jordan, I don't see any other questions for you from the public. Just last comments from Kevin Horgan. It sounds like we're only going to hear your decision until after decision is made. So maybe if we can do another follow-up presentation with either zoning or the public, again, we would really appreciate it in terms of your engagement efforts on this project.
Okay, you saying you would like another update?
Yeah, just it seems
on
like
the
some
selling
of the
on the selling prop on as far as with the selling of the property.
it seems like some of the residents are not too informed on how that's working, and maybe there should be a little bit more engagement. So we can follow up that maybe with zoning particularly. We have a zoning committee that we can follow up with on the separately than the public ANC meeting.
Okay, can connect on that. Yeah, we're definitely still at the beginning phases, but once we can get some more information on that, we can definitely follow up with you guys.
Perfect. Okay, so let me just check. Okay, so I want to say if you could just share your contact information in the chat. But other than that, thank you so much for coming out on election night.
Oh no, thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Have a good one.
Just a second. So D dot, Mr. Baker, are we situated? Commissioner Cobb, who else was joining? Is it Will Hansfield?
Yeah, Will Hansfield and Delando.
Got it. Just promoting them to panelists right now. Right.
Good evening, everyone. Will Hansfield actually is going to be addressing the questions that you guys pose here. I believe he won't be hopping on until 8 o'clock is what he pinged me. I think
I'm here now. So if
perfect.
If that works for you.
Mr. Jordan, can you come off the shared screen? Perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna share my PowerPoint and maximize it as well. And hello, everyone. Happy election night. I know there's probably other things to be excited about this evening, and I want to get to some of those too. But I'm here to tell you about a really exciting project that we've been spending a lot of time on over the past year to try to get into a suitable shape that we can share some details with you. And it is the corridor that really stretches from 9th Street, and it goes all the way through most of 5D and continues into what's now Ward 7. It was Ward 6 just up until this next change of boundaries. But it's Mount Olivet and then 17th Street all the way down to Barney Circle. So it functions as one gigantic corridor. It's a fairly crash-prone corridor. It's one that's had bicycle fatalities as recently as 2019. It's a very difficult road to ride on, and I think everybody that's on this call can appreciate that it's a fairly dangerous road to all the people that use it, including pedestrians that are either walking along it or trying to cross the street. So what we're going to talk about is a treatment that can address most of those issues. Just a little bit about where we are. We have been doing some concept planning. This is like big picture, 30,000 foot, to figure out where in the district some of these treatments are going to be applied to get to a network of bicycle facilities that happened first in 2013, and then in 2021 we did an update of our Move DC document. We did a traffic study starting in 2021. We've been doing some more traffic studies to try to figure out what will happen if we do the treatments we'll talk about in a second. And where we are now is in what we call preferred concept design and preliminary engineering. So summer through winter of this year. Following that, sometime during winter, we'll probably start, once we really nail down some of the design options that we're interested in pursuing along with you, we'll do a 30-day comment period, 30 business days. So it's really like 6 weeks of review with the community and stakeholders. We then go into final design, and then if everything goes well, we'll do construction next summer of all or part of this. Sometimes you have to phase things differently if there's ongoing construction in a corridor or things like that. But just to get really big picture, why is DC installing bicycle lanes? So in Move DC, we have a goal of creating an all ages and abilities network of bicycle facilities that are low stress and that create an equitable transportation system. And what all ages and ability means is really that, people as young as children riding with their parents, or maybe, riding next to their parents when they're 8 years old or something like that, are able to use this network all the way up to 80 years old. And a lot of times people use e-bikes, other mobility devices in the bike lanes. We want to support that. We have some overlapping goals from Sustainable DC. Our second largest source of carbon emissions is transportation. Our goal is 25% of commuter trips in each ward by walking and biking by 2032, so 10 years away. And reducing automobile trips from, when we baseline this was 43% down to 25%. And during COVID, we actually were pretty close to that. I think it was down to something like, auto trips were down all across the board. We also have Vision Zero goals. This is the philosophy that zero traffic fatalities are acceptable. We're going to create safe conditions across the district through engineering. And then just lastly, a big picture goal is with safe routes to school. Again, the philosophy and practice of making sure that children have a safe ways to get to school, walking, biking, primarily are the focuses. One of the things that we're getting from the work we've done so far in Washington, D.C. is that, and this is borne out by federal research as well. So today, the arrow up at top, we have a growing network that reaches a lot more people than most cities, but it's still only tops out at about 16% of the population is sort of willing to use the existing network, which is comprised of essentially a patchwork of painted lanes, no lanes, some protected lanes, some trails. To get to a future where a large percentage of the population is willing to ride bikes, we need to have a low stress network, which is comprised of more trails and more protected bike lanes than we have today, and not having gaps in that network. So, and you can see the kind of profile of rider who's willing to use these different types of things. So a lot of people are willing to ride on trails for work trips, for commute trips, for recreational trips, for going to the store. Fewer people over there on the right are willing to just take the lane when they need to. So we're really trying to plan around the people on the left of this chart, because that's the growth for bicycling, and it's potentially very large. There's individual benefits. You can just read through this. Economic development benefits. There's environmental benefits. There's system management benefits, and there's resiliency benefits for bicycle networks. So all very important and valid things that we're working on. And then just one last slide on big picture things. People ask about the climate impacts of bicycling, and they often, electric cars come up, but electric cars are a little better than combustion cars, which are the ones, combustion cars are the ones in red. Those bars on the bottom, that represents the total carbon emissions of each form of transportation. So electric cars are yes, they're better, but they're still pretty far away from both transit and bikes, which is really the focus of DDOT in planning for new things to come to our transportation network. This is our Move DC bicycle plan for this larger area, Carver, Langston, and Trinidad. So you can see it really starts up at the intersection of 9th Street, Brentwood Parkway, and Mount Olivet, continues all the way over here, and it extends all the way down to Barney Circle on 17th Street. We'll also talk about some of the overlapping parts of our bike network that we're planning. So many of you have heard about the Bladensburg Road study, which is here, that intersects with this project. We have more work to do sort of within Carver, Langston, and we have more work to do within Trinidad to get to this. One of the things that is true about this area is it has a larger proportion of children per household than the average across the city. You can see the chart there for this zip code. And we've been doing this traffic work just to evaluate the overall approach to what's going to happen. So we're looking at this 4-lane road. So it's 4 lanes on both Mount Olivet, it's 4 lanes on 17th Street through your area. Those are fairly crash prone type roadway patterns. We would choose to use something called a road diet pattern, so go to a 3-lane. That almost always reduces the crash profile of the road, just for some dynamics I'll get into in a second. This is a typical condition. Vehicle capacity is typically maintained on road diet projects, but there are a couple places on this corridor, particularly at Bladensburg and 17th, where because there's so many lanes feeding so many other lanes, that we think that there will be a diminution, particularly at rush hour. So rush hour traffic will get a little bit worse, but trading that off against pretty strong safety benefits. Right now, cyclists and pedestrians don't have sufficient space on the corridor to ensure their safety. One thing that's true about bike lane planning is that it results in safer streets for all users. That's borne out by many, many years of research and many years of practice, both in DC and other cities in the US. The street characteristics say you have 44 street total to work with. Right now it's divided into 4 11-foot lanes. Your sidewalks vary from 8 feet to 5 feet, and a couple of those sidewalks that are 5 feet have pretty significant pinch points, like a large mature tree, a light pole base, a signal pole base. So they really get down to like a, below what we call the Americans with Disability Act minimum, which is a 3-foot minimum clear at all points. There's a couple places that don't have that. You have 6 of these 4-lane uncontrolled pedestrian crossings, so 2 each at Lyman, Lang, and 8th Street. And I think I didn't count the ones on Mount Olivet. I think there's 4 more on Mount Olivet. That's a lot, and those are each places that are significant dangers to pedestrians. We had a fatality on Wheeler Road at a place that's almost an analogy for these in the past year. So here's one of them. It's right now part of the BC Water traffic control plan. So that barreled area in the middle kind of makes a pedestrian refuge. But just imagine for a second the barrels aren't there, right? That's a really dangerous condition to set up for pedestrians, where they're crossing 2 lanes in each direction without any sort of refuge in the middle. So this, almost seemed like the traffic control plan for the DC Water project. You can imagine that this refuge that you could see in the middle makes it a much safer crossing, even just with still crossing 2 lanes in one direction and 1 lane in the other direction. But essentially, we could do something like that throughout. Here's another one of the cross sections we were able to snap a picture of. You can see on the right-hand side, there's a pedestrian on the sidewalk. That's one of those 5-foot ones. It's constrained by a retaining wall, and then further up, you'll see some of those light poles that constrain it. On then the left side of the screen, you'll see the large mature trees that are constraining the sidewalk further. So that's something that we're interested in addressing. Part of what I do is we do what we call tactical street projects in my team. So we're trying to find a new pattern that's going to work, that's going to be safer, and then we're followed not always very immediately by something called a capital improvement. That's where they take the street, they re-engineer it for drainage and curb and gutter, and they might widen the sidewalks with concrete at that point. We usually use mostly paint and temporary equipment that we install on top of the roadway with my team. Here is another one of those locations with a 4-lane uncontrolled crossing for pedestrians. This would be one of those opportunities. I'll show us an aerial view in a minute to put in a median refuge and make this a much safer space. Right now, this is exactly where we would expect to get very serious crashes of a couple different types. Here are the crash risks in a 4-lane crossing. So this has been fairly well known for about 15 or 20 years, but car A stops, the pedestrian walks out, can't see car B, and so they decide that they're gonna keep walking, and car B can't see the pedestrian, and so that's the risk. The pedestrian gets hit by car B. Similarly, there's I don't know why they didn't label it car C, but on the right hand side, there's the car that sees car A slowing down, doesn't know why, and decides, oh, they're just a jerk that's stopping in the middle of the road. I'm going to zip around them right as the pedestrian steps out from in front of car A. So there are some pretty significant and real risks with that pattern. This is the before and after of a couple of road diet patterns. Up in the top right, you can see the sort of typical before and after cross section. And we'll get into exactly how we might vary from this typical pattern. But going to the 3-lane cross section, and you see an example on the bottom left, another one on the bottom right. You typically see a very significant drop in crashes, something like 35–40% drop in crashes just from changing the pattern. The one on the bottom left also incorporates a median refuge. So now instead of crossing 4 lanes, the pedestrian's crossing, a bike lane, a single travel lane, has a place to wait in the center of the roadway, and then crosses another lane. So that's one of the aspects that makes it significantly safer. We try to pair those with bus stops to make the bus stop crossings much safer. We can typically do a road diet on a street that has 25,000 vehicles or fewer without a diminution of level of service. But like I said, I think there are some intersections where we would see some changes, especially at rush hour. Here's another diagram of all the different crash types that you see. So the ones with sort of the red and blue arrows, every one of those white stars on the left is a existing condition crash risk location. And then when you move to the right side of each little sketch, you see that the crash risk is cut in half, just because you provide space for left turns to be processed outside the general flow of traffic. You provide space for right turns to be deconflicted from the general flow of traffic. So you end up with a much more community-focused street. But like I said, there would probably in this case be some longer rush hour periods. Just so you know how this ties into the larger network, this is what we're doing south of your area. So your your ANC ends at Benning Road. I think that continues to be the border for 5D after redistricting. So these are the types of facilities that this will tie into. And then this is what we're talking about, just so you see a big picture, 30,000-foot schematic. So we'd be doing a 2-way cycle track. That's 2 bike lanes next to each other on the south side of Mount Olivet, from the intersection with 9th Street all the way down to at least M Street. So we have to cross Bladensburg with that same pattern. And then we have a couple options, which I'll talk about, but we could continue that 2-lane cycle track all the way down probably to something like H Street, possibly Maryland Avenue. That's something that the ANC 5D Transportation Committee asked us to work on. Or we could do it as a southbound bike lane where the northbound is on one of the alternate streets. So like 19th Street would be a good candidate for a northbound lane. I know there's a fairly steep hill there, so that might be something we decide not to do just because of the topography. But we're also looking at trying to scope out some space for extra sidewalk as well as those pedestrian refuges. To fill out the future network for Carver-Langston in particular, like I said, there's some other things in Trinidad that we're looking at, but in Carver-Langston, there's going to be this Bladensburg corridor study that's going on. Right now, it looks like the recommendation is going to be to have bicycle lanes and bus priority integrated into the corridor. We have Maryland Avenue bike lanes, potentially 19th Street bike lanes, and then M Street, what we call contraflow lanes. It's kind of like a neighborhood, like low stress corridor type treatment that we, you might be familiar from next to H Street Northeast, there's I Street and G Street, sort of shadowing the H Street corridor. Those are contraflow bike lanes. Okay, so here is the actual schematic. So we were just at like 30,000 feet, now we're at 5,000 feet overhead. So we are going to probably start this facility right here. There's a cycle track facility on Brentwood Parkway that I came to you guys and we worked on a couple years ago. It's now been in service like 2 years. We'd bring the riders from that facility kind of across this triangle park area. This used to be the 9th Street Bridge footer, so it's a DDOT right-of-way asset. Whoops. And with like a trail that's off-street. Bring them to meet up with this two-way cycle track here. It would continue. We would have bus platforms to for the bus stops to serve. Going to the next intersection, just to cover those. This is the intersection with West Virginia. You can see the same pattern comes down here, and then the main thing with the traffic pattern for vehicles is that you get these center turn lanes that deconflict a lot of your turning movements, and you get these center turn areas for the side streets as well. Where we have pedestrian crossings, we might take a little bit of space on one side of that where the turn wouldn't be able to happen and make that a ped refuge. I want to look at this one in particular. I'm not so sure that this is exactly the right configuration here, because I'd like to get a ped refuge at this place. So there's more work to come, but this just gives you the general thrust of what we've been trying to noodle out with our planning work. Going ahead, I'm going to do the big faux pas, which is I have to change my orientation from north being up on the slide to now it's to the right of your side. So this is Bladensburg. It's a complex intersection today, and we had to rotate the screen just to fit it and show you what is going on here. But this is from the Bladensburg study, one of the, I think, 3 intersection concepts. So this has the two-way cycle track coming across and continuing down 17th Street. So now we've gone from Mount Olivet to 17th Street. Just to talk about Bladensburg, it also has intersecting bike facilities in this concept plan, along with, I think, at these points, like 5 traffic lanes. There's a lot more work to be done to figure out exactly which of these options is going to be the one that's chosen for this intersection. It's very complex, probably overly complex, and it leads to a lot of crashes as a result. But the big change is right now it has 2 left turn lanes going and feeding 17th. So there's a very large amount of traffic that spills off Bladensburg and goes on to 17th. To make this all work, we would have to restrict that to a single left turn lane, which I think would almost certainly immediately reduce the amount of traffic that's spilling into your neighborhood and probably incentivize them to stay on either Bladensburg or even further upstream, stay on New York Avenue. I've noticed in doing field work on this corridor, there is a lot of truck traffic, despite most of the corridor being a truck prohibited route. So what I think is going on is the commercial drivers, CDL drivers that are leaving like the industrial area of Northeast, and they don't want to get bogged down in 395 traffic. They decide, I'm just going to go through your neighborhood instead. And I think that characterizes a lot of what's going on there in terms of like how busy it is. There's just a lot of spillover from other places. I'm showing you this because this is one where that we came up with, but we think we'll rule it out. This was an option that would divert, you got a two-way cycle track to preserve this double left. The engineer that came up with this had the cycle track going down the median of Bladensburg and then cutting over at M Street, and then doing some other changes here. I don't think that's going to work for a couple of reasons, which we don't need to get into here, but I just wanted to show you some of the thought process behind what we've been working out and trying to figure out for this this complex intersection. And I should take a breath and maybe take some questions. We have a couple more slides to go through, but if anyone has any big picture questions that they're dying to ask,
Well, we've definitely surpassed time, so we didn't realize it was going to be so long. Sorry you didn't get the memo about the 10 minutes. But I'll let the other commissioners ask questions real quick so we can keep the meeting moving.
I have several questions.
ahead.
As I am current commissioner who is 5D03, and this will directly impact me because I live on M Street. First question, and I know that Mr. Baker is on the line too. I've been working with Mr. Baker in reference to traffic studies, and I've been delayed almost 2 years on these traffic studies, but it just seems very strange that all of a sudden, because the bike lanes are coming, this project is moving rather swiftly, one, without any constituents input, two, without any feedback, any knowledge of this. This is the first I'm hearing of this, and I've been the commissioner for 2 years. That's the first thing. So I'll have let you answer them all. I just want to get them out before I forget anything. Two, have you guys analyzed any situations for residential parking? If you're going to take away all of these street lanes and to install these bike lanes and to restrict street patterns to 1 to 2 lanes from 4 lanes, how is this going to impact residential parking in this neighborhood? Because I live on M Street between 17th and 19th, and our neighborhood is continuously growing, which means more cars for residents. I understand this whole project's to impact the carbon footprint and to reduce traffic pattern, but how will you address that? And my third and final question is, you said something about trucks. We have the DPW maintenance facility that's right here in Ward 5, who actually, which is across Bladensburg Road, who I want to say 80% of the trucks are the trash trucks and DPW trucks. How will that impact them because they use M Street as a main road, just like they would use 17th Street, 19th Street, Bladensburg Road?
Let me maybe go in reverse order. So the truck traffic, I think what I'm seeing, I see a lot of commercial dump trucks, which, so just because I know where most of the sites that they're picking up their dirt and hauling to are not in your area. I think they're further afield, generally speaking. So I think, yes, there are certainly trash trucks. The truck restrictions don't apply to municipal vehicles. Why do we have those? It's to try to direct trucks onto streets that are both dimensioned so that they're large enough for them, that the turns they can make off of them are engineered properly. And we try to get them to go onto the freeways in general as soon as possible. And the fact that they're essentially just not doing that is not really helping the neighborhood level quality of life things. And I know exactly where the DPW lot is. We go there for we have a warehouse there off 15th Street for DDOT, and we do vehicle services there. But in general, we think that there's a better balance that we can achieve by making it a lower crash corridor and having some of the truck traffic divert back onto the places that are engineered for it. So your New York Avenues, your 395s. You asked about neighborhood parking. In this case, this project is unique in that we have enough space because of the lane reduction to fit the things that we're talking about without needing to take neighborhood parking away in any way, shape, or form with this set of projects. I think in general there is no parking allowed on either Mount Olivet or this portion of 17th Street. If I've got that wrong, I apologize, but I think that's true throughout both corridors, at least up until Benning Road. South of Benning, it changes character quite a bit. And remind me what your first question was. It was about this is the first you're hearing of this. So, I get my assignments sometimes in ways that are a little curious for us as well, but we were given money in this past year's budget to work out safety issues. And it was pretty vaguely described, but it came from the council budget package. And so we're trying to figure that out and come up with something that would address that. And, we're still at the very beginning of this project, right? So we have some concepts because that's, we want to be here to show you what what we've thought up. We have met with the ANC 5D Transportation Committee, and I've been in touch with Commissioner Kopp about scheduling. So I'm sorry that the message hasn't gotten out, but we've been, just trying to get something useful to show you, so we have a productive discussion about what it is we're trying to implement here.
So, Mr. Hansel, can you confirm then, I'm sorry, Commissioner Moore, if you had something else to ask, but can you confirm, Mr. Hansel, that DDOT's approach to safety in these areas, in our neighborhoods, is just to install bike lanes? Because that's what it seems like from your presentation.
No, it's a multifaceted thing. You would, yes, there will be bike lanes on many streets, but what comes with a bike lane project is an entire corridor with a suite of changes. So, all the disciplines that work at DDOT contribute to these projects. And there are pretty profound changes for vehicular safety. So people driving get a much safer environment, people walking get a much safer environment, and people bicycling get a much safer environment. But it is true that we do have a 200-mile network of protected bike facilities that we're planning for the District of Columbia. And that's so that we, one, we address some of those Vision Zero issues. We have an unacceptably high rate of bicyclist and scooter rider fatalities. And that's something that is top of our minds as we think about how to redesign corridors. It must be safe for people to use these types of transportation as they go through the city. Everyone deserves to get where they're going and not have to deal with a serious crash or worse. We are implementing a lot of other changes that cut across things like transit improvements. That's a big characteristic of the Bladensburg project. It's significant transit improvements as well. I'm sure you're familiar with the Benning Road transit expansion with the streetcar going to Minnesota, or actually to East Capitol. So there's a lot of work that DDOT's doing that towards safety that is multimodal. So yeah, bike lanes are an aspect of that, but it's
I guess
not the only
just to
aspect.
clarify it from a residential standpoint that takes these roads and streets daily, it just seems like the project is moving forward because of bicyclists. And you mentioned they're only 16% of the population in DC, but pedestrians make up, a ton more than that. And on Mount Olivet specifically, we've been asking for calming measures on some of those crosswalks, but we haven't got anything back from DDOT until now, where it seems like more of it's just a bicyclist push to make your quota for those miles that you're installing.
I am a bicycle planner, so yes, my focus at the agency is to develop bicycle projects and do it at the corridor scale. But I do work with a large body of experts that work on all aspects of that safety, and so it is not solely a bicycle project. It is a multimodal safety effort, but an aspect of that is definitely going to be the safety of bicyclists and making sure that the very valid needs of cyclists, existing and future, we're trying to grow the population of cyclists. So our goal is not to do something for 16% of the population, but to do something that works for 56% of the population or more. That's the target. It's not to plan for cyclists that are here now. It's to plan for cyclists of the future that need a much greater degree of safety, protection, separation from traffic.
And a commissioner such as myself focus more on the pedestrian more than the bicyclists that don't exist yet. Do you understand what I'm saying and the concern of some of our residents?
Maybe I should show some of the slides about some of the pedestrian refuges that we're like. This is one of the things that we can do. We can have these very large center refuges. I think one of them was in one of the road diet typical cross sections that we saw at the beginning. But this is like, there is a very real and daily problem with your crosswalks. It is likely that somebody over enough time will get killed at one of I think I said there's 3 different locations on 17th that have this problem. There are 4 on Mount Olivet. I might be missing 1 or 2, but every one of them, like I said, we just had a fatality of this type on Wheeler Road Southeast last year. And we are in the midst of a total redesign of that road as a result of that and some other very significant safety problems. Like, I want to do something before that happens there are a suite of multimodal things that we're doing, and this is an aspect of my project that that we will be able to deliver. So it's not just bicycle safety; it is very much pedestrian safety. I am a pedestrian. I walk. I took the bus this very evening to Adams Morgan and back. So I'm living the multimodal lifestyle here in Washington D.C. and I live not so far away. I live just on 14th Street south of D Street Northeast. So I'm fairly close. I understand this area pretty well, and I go there fairly often. So hopefully that gives you some faith that I'm thinking through a suite of issues. And again, I don't get
not from the presentation, it doesn't give me faith, but if you're saying this on camera or on recorded video, then I'll take that. But just to add one last thing, when it comes to parking, yes, you're correct that there's no parking on all of it, but we do get parking situations when children are being picked up from KIPP.
Yeah.
Have you put that into your consideration?
We're aware that we're working with our Safe Routes to School team to make sure that we have accommodate that and make sure it's
because I think that would be the biggest concern to a lot of families in the neighborhood if you're going to be changing how they pick up their children. So
I think
on the next presentation, maybe we can get some information on that.
Yeah, I'll make sure to do that.
Salvador, I don't mean to cut you off, but
go ahead. I'm done.
Okay, no problem. Because I have a question in reference to M Street.
Yeah.
I'm Commissioner Black now. I'm the ANC commissioner for the 21st 100 block of M Street and the 22nd 100 block of M Street. And I have the same concern as Commissioner Moore. The street is already narrow. That's a bus route. I have a concern about putting these bike racks there. And also the Arboretum, what part of the Arboretum? The back part of the Arboretum on M and Maryland Avenue? Is that where you talking about putting the bikes at too? That's going to be very dangerous, sir, because the street is already narrow. You got parking there, you got the bus there that turns there. It's not that big. It really,
yeah, it's a 30-foot road, and it's one way in the segment that we're most interested in doing something relatively soon. So what we do is something called a contraflow bike lane pattern. So the bikes get to go two-way on that street. Where bike lane is going in the opposite direction of the vehicles, and the same direction is just what we call a shared lane. So what it does is it makes it a relatively slow speed and calm street for people to use. It is not our highest degree of bicycle protection, but in the context of neighborhood streets, we think it's the right one. We've done about 10 miles of that pattern throughout the city, and we think it's the right one. I can speak to a little bit more about the big picture of the Arboretum.
You're taking away parking spaces, just like Commissioner Moore said.
No, we're not going.
If you put, yes, you are, sir. You
are. I can tell you that pattern that
over 20 years, you are going to take away parking spaces.
Not on M Street and not on 17th.
I mean, Mr. Hansfield, just quick.
M Street.
Not on M Street.
I just want to get my questions in really quick. Mr. Hansfield, just to piggyback on what Commissioner Sensei Black Guzman said, and first, you said that you weren't going to take parking. I hear you, because that's what the point is at hand. But I do know the residents on West Virginia Avenue near Gallaudet, they weren't notified that because they were installing black lanes, they were going to take additional parking. So I just want to know, one, are you going to, during your planning phases, your continuous planning phases, will residents be notified and be able to weigh in on whatever the final construction or previously before that? That's the first thing. Two, I am not against cyclists. I don't want you to think that because my husband's a cyclist. I'm very proactive in cyclists. However, I'm also a driver and a resident in this neighborhood. We have been, and then to go back with Cecil Guzman said, we've been asking for traffic calming studies as far as installing speed humps and stop signs on 17th, 19th, and M Street for 2 years.
And excuse me, and I Street. Mr.
Plenty
Baker,
of streets. It just
I didn't notify you 3 times, Mr. Baker, in reference to the speed hump at the bottom of our street. It has not been taken care of, and I'm very upset because cars are speeding up and down this hill.
Yes, ma'am. This is Delando. If I can hop in for just 2 seconds.
Yes, Mr. Baker.
All right, great.
I'm waiting.
Okay, great. On behalf of the engineers, because I do just relay the message, that we do have an influx, or I should say an overflow in 311 requests. So what they've done is outsource a contractor to help assist them with doing the evaluation process for any of the remaining 311 requests, one in which is in your SMD, the one you mentioned. So it has been sent to a consultant, so it should be getting evaluated very soon.
There's 21 at 2114 I Street. There's speed humps at the top. I need speed humps at the bottom.
Mr. Baker, this is Commissioner Moore, as you know. I understand, and I've been working frivolently with you on my traffic studies. It's just that as residents first, take out the commissioner, as residents first, we've been continuously asking for traffic calming patterns. All of a sudden that the bike lanes are coming, we're going to be maybe influx of parking issues. Yeah, they're gonna change the lanes and make sure that it's a safety across the board because of cyclists, which I previously said my husband's a cyclist, so I'm not against it. But it's so strange that all of a sudden now we're getting, but we're still not getting what we previously asked for.
Right.
Because if
we feel like it's not being prioritized over the got it.
Right.
Over people that don't exist yet. Okay, commissioners, I'm sorry. I know we're heated on this topic, and we've been given plenty of time to D-Dot today. We'll be continuing this conversation later at a later time because we need to move with the meeting. We are past time on here. But Mr. Hansfield, could we get your contact information?
Yeah.
If you could drop it in the chat when you're available. I saw that you answered some questions from the public on the Q&A. I appreciate you for that. And we'll take this conversation as an ongoing one, especially since you're still engaging the community, correct?
Yeah, this is the first of many conversations we'll have. So if you need me back at the Transportation Committee, if you need me back at the full ANC meeting, happy to talk about it. We had some slides we didn't get to, but that's all right. I'll share the presentation as well if you wanted to distribute that, and we'll be setting up a website. To speak to who will get noticed, we're trying to do a much better job with mailers, making sure every address on a corridor that we're treating gets some literature about what's happening, when it's happening, opportunities for engagement, things like that. Delando's been helping us with that. So you have a really good community engagement person for your ward. I want to give him a commendation on that. But thanks for having us. This will be the first conversation of many. And with that, I think I'll let you continue with your meeting. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Moving on to the last requested presentation, Brighter, Better, Connected DC. Are y'all prepared? Because we sure are. Who do we need to add? Was there another presenter that we needed to add to your group?
Sharon Walder.
Yes, 1 second. They're being promoted to panelist.
And I think you already did Anna Hasagawa earlier.
Yes.
Okay.
And as they're getting situated, just a reminder to the residents, our next portion for this meeting will be voting actions. So if anyone's speaking, please be prepared to do so within the next 10 minutes. Okay, whenever y'all ready.
Hello. How are y'all?
Oh, we here.
I know, right? I was like, wait, hold on. How did this happen? But anyway, it is election night and we are feeling good. And we want to get on through this presentation for y'all. I'm Sharon Wilder. I'm president of Indigo Mid-Atlantic, representing our team working on DC Smart Street Lighting. I have Ms. Ashley Wells, who is from Tina Boyden Associates, and as well as Anna Hasawega, who is representing our group as well, the Plenary Infrastructure DC group. So let's see, we will go ahead and just get started. Let me go into slideshow. All right. Can everybody see this okay?
Yes.
So, all right, so let's just talk a little bit about the community benefits of this project. The project, actually, wait a minute, did I skip it? Yeah, okay, great. The project that we are doing here, that you all have heard about by now, is that we're modernizing over 72,000 streetlights, and we're converting these streetlights to LED technology. We are also adding remote monitoring and control capabilities. We're increasing the sustainability efforts, and we're reducing street light energy consumption by more than 50%. We're also eliminating 38,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions each year, as well as adding wireless access points for some of our underserved communities in wards 7 and 8. So we expect to start this work. Well, we've some of you may know that we signed our contract, right? And then we have a lot of prep work to do to actually get ready to install the lights. And that's what we'll be doing in the first quarter of the year. We'll start doing that work in terms of installation. This work is going to go quickly. We're going to install all of these lights by May 2024, at which point the asset managers will take over from and manage it. You know, we expect quite a bit of reduction of lights being out and that type of thing because of moving to LED lights. I don't know if any of y'all have LED lights in your own homes, but if you do have them, you would recognize that they last a long time, right? So we're excited to bring that to the district. So the way that we're phasing this work is we are going to be working in wards 5, 7, and 8 first. Which is why we wanted to get on your calendar to meet with y'all. Where the preparatory task that I mentioned earlier is around the design, the procurement, the mobilization, getting all the people in place to deliver this work. And right now we're doing these some sporadic work to upgrade the foundations, to make sure that they are in good condition to receive the light fixtures. And then this light installation will occur in the wards as listed here per ANC. So we'll be doing 5 groups of these lightings in a single member district area. And so we decided to do it that way so that we can get in and out within 2 weeks and move to the next area. Okay, and so then, as I mentioned, the asset management part will continue. Will go on. It's going to be seamless for everyone. In these, when these lights are we're finished installing these, you should expect a reduction of needing to call 311 if lights go out, because it's going to be automatic that they are going to be notified. But in the case that some trucker decides to mow down a light, and we know this happens, right? A pole, then, we do have the operating 311 line that the community will call as normal. All right, so in terms of our notification process, we indicated that per contract that 45 days prior to our start of work, which means when we'll be in your area, we will notify you by mail and by email. And then 7 days prior to that work, we'll make sure that we leave door hangers. We're gonna leave information cards, and we'll advise folks that there will be emergency no parking in some areas. And then 72 hours prior to the start of work, we will actually issue those emergency no parking signs. All right, so we have a website that is up and running. You can take out your smartphones and take a picture of the QR code. It'll take you directly to the website. But if you have any questions and would like to receive project updates, please register at info@dcsmartstreetlights.com. And with that, I will take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Wilder, for the presentation. Just a quick question for me. How long is the installation process usually scheduled to take?
I'm not for the actual, like, once you get on the ground to start doing the work.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you come off?
So if we're talking about Cobra heads, you're talking about units, right? You want to know how long a worker will be at a pole?
Yeah, like what would residents kind of typically see when they're affected by the construction of these ones?
So this is a rolling operation. We anticipate to convert Cobra heads. They'll be at a pole 10 to 12 minutes. For the pole stops, it's going to be more like 45 minutes. And the teardrops in between half hour to 45 minutes as well.
Okay, not too crazy.
Yeah, no, the folks that are converting these lights, they're very familiar with the work, and this is all historical data we've been collecting from other projects. So 45 minutes tops.
Okay, and just to follow up, in terms of selection of areas that it's getting, is there any targeted areas that are getting focused for installation, or is this going in new locations or very outdated locations? Is there any estimates on how that will work?
So let me see if I can share my screen with you guys. Oh, here.
And just a friendly reminder for the residents, if there's any questions, drop them in the Q&A, and commissioners will give you some time to ask a question as well. See, Commissioner Rhodes is next for her question.
So you guys can see my screen?
It looks like it's in a disco with flashing.
I know, yeah. I'm not sure why that's happening.
Oh my goodness.
Let me try again.
But sometimes that has happened to me when my my cursor is like on something's touching it.
Right, and I'm not. Let's try again.
Okay.
Is that better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as ANC 5D is done, we are going in an order here. Well, let me share something else as well. Can you see that one?
Mm-hmm.
So we have here 5D1, 5D2, and 5D3, right? Which are the areas we divided your ANC.
Okay.
So 5D1 is the blue area, 5D2 is the yellow area, and 5D3 is the purple. So that's the sequence we're gonna move through your ANC.
Okay.
We didn't pick that order for any particular reason. We are open to suggestions. If you see any, benefits on starting on one versus the other, we're open to that. And as Sharon mentioned, we're only allowed by the DDOT to stay within an area for 14 days max. But really, our plans indicate we'll be in each of these colored areas for about 7 to 9 days only, which means we have to cover all the streets within that area in 7 days.
So just to clarify for the residents, this is a complete overhaul. There's not going to be one light skipped over on this project.
Correct. It should be a rolling operation where all the lights within those areas are captured.
Well, that's fun. Okay, well, good to know. Commissioner Rhodes, you had a question?
Yes, really quick. We have a lot of light poles in the sidewalks that are obstructing. They're causing our sidewalks not to be ADA compliant. We actually had some poles here that were done in Ivy City, and they just put them right next to the old poles, which just made it even worse. So what are y'all doing about the light poles that are in the middle of sidewalks that shouldn't be there?
So the requirements of our contract just dictates that poles are replaced if they're in really poor condition, and they are to be replaced in the same location. And that was not a decision we made, right? That was a requirement imposed by the client.
Can we have further discussion on that? Because we have poles in the middle of a sidewalk, in the middle of sidewalks. Then we can't walk in the street because we might get hit by a car. And if someone has a wheelchair, they can't get down the sidewalk because there's
they lose access to blocks
Exactly.
or certain streets because they know they can't get through it.
Right, completely understand. That is a conversation for us to involve the DDOT, and I think, yeah,
I just took the note on that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's so far it's our only concern, so it will be a nice note that you could save. Commissioner Cobb, you had a question?
Yeah, just real quick. How does the temperature of these LED lights compare to the lights that exist now?
They should be cooler. I am not the most technical person, and I can certainly relate that question to our engineers, but they should be cooler, right?
How much cooler?
I'm
not a science person either. I don't need exact numbers. Just.
And you're talking about like Fahrenheit temperature, right? Not color temperature.
No, I'm talking about color because I really don't like the really cold, harsh white lights. I got a golden, one of the regular golden street lights right outside my house, and it's pretty nice.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sharon,
Yeah.
I'll provide you with the information. We have that data.
Yeah.
That was a requirement also stipulated by the DDOT as far as the color temperature goes, and we're happy to share that with you guys.
Right.
So I'll provide information to Sharon, and she'll funnel through you guys.
Yeah, I just took I got your questions that are in the chat so that I can come back and answer those. But I'm not sure if you see the one that's here. How will streetlights within alleys work? And Skip is asking because his condo has parking behind the building on the alley, and one street light is essentially between parking spaces.
So again, we are scheduled to replace the lights exactly in the same location they currently are. And that would have to be a discussion with the DDOT. We can certainly move the locations, but that's not part of this project.
Right. So
the alley lights also are getting replaced. And from this conversation, it sounds like maybe residents, including commissioners, should do their due diligence on specific lights with DDOT and 311 requests.
I would advise, and I lament that we don't have a DDOT person on the call this evening, but that those concerns be addressed with DDOT directly, and then we can take our direction from DDOT.
Right, because relocation of the lights is not part of the project as planned right now. If you guys would like to see that happen, obviously we're happy to accommodate, but that direction has to come from the DDOT to us.
Right.
Okay. Well, there's no other questions from the public, and any other commissioners or any other questions? No. Well, we appreciate y'all for attending tonight on Election Day. This was a good presentation, and thanks for this last visual. It kind of helps us know where exactly this project is going. Can any of y'all share just your contact information in the chat for any residents that might have questions with any of this project, and we'll be sure to follow up with DDOT on some of these polls that seem like they might be issues.
Okay, and I see, Skip, thank you for clarifying that, because we did not, I did not understand that question. Skip is indicating that he's concerned about what happens to their cars that are in those parking spaces when the work is being done.
Mm-hmm. So in the alleys, in the typical street, if there's room for the truck to reach over a car, we'll do that. In alleys, we're gonna have to issue the no parking sign. Right, and unfortunately, the cars shouldn't be there when this operation goes through that particular alley.
Okay. Well, Ms. Wilder and Ms. Hasegawa, we appreciate y'all for attending tonight's meeting. We look forward to this project moving forward. It looks like there might be a couple headaches down the line, but usually this is what happens when you do a project this big in the city. So we appreciate y'all's time today, and I look forward to staying in contact if we have any questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on with our agenda. Here we have voting actions. We have 2 voting actions today, specifically a PUD on M Street Northeast and an extension request on 4th and Penn for 2022 and 2024. For the voting action on the PUD, did we have anyone here that would be speaking for this PUD? If you could just raise your hand in the chat function so we can elevate you.
Commissioner, while we're at it, I just want to make a note that because of my day job, I'm actually not allowed to consider or vote on issues involving planning or zoning or land use. So I'm going to mute my mic and go off camera so I won't take any part in the consideration of this.
Thank you, Commissioner. And any of the other former panelists, feel free to either drop the call or move yourself as panelist. We don't need to hold you here all night. We have just a couple last minute things to do here. Promoting everybody. I think everyone's been promoted to panelist.
Good evening. Shall we go right into it?
Yes, please.
Well, thank you so much for having us, ANC 5D. I'm joined this evening by the team behind 2229 M Street Northeast. My name is Marcus Goodwin. I guess we'll do a round of introductions to get started. I'm with Goodwin Companies, one of the developers of the project, joined by Peter Stewart.
Evening, everybody. Peter Stewart from Outlier. Maybe Sharon, you want to go next?
Yep.
Sure. Hi, I'm Jen Bisker. I'm from Goulston Stores, and I'm representing Outlier and Goodwin in this PUD.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will Zide with Coach Slade. We prepared the traffic report for this project.
Good evening. I'm John Sage with ZDS Architecture, the architect.
Well, thank you again. We'll quickly reintroduce the ANC and the community to the project and talk through a few of the updates that have happened since our last meeting and 2 weeks ago, our meeting with the zoning committee for this ANC, addressing some of the issues and questions that have come up. Here, the opening slide shows from the north side looking south onto M Street, the front facade and entrance of 2229 M Street Northeast. This building is planned to be a 120-unit senior affordable housing building. It will be age restricted to residents who are 55 and older. The site that comprises the property area. Currently stands an apartment building that has gone vacant. That's to the east, the larger building, and the building to the west of the two buildings was formerly an apartment building as well that has been vacant for a while. Further to the east is a federal government-owned plot of land, which from all indications we've gotten from NPS will continue to be a well-manicured and grass-cut plot of land. The federal government has not formally made known what plans, if any, they have for that site. The two development firms are Outlier Realty and Goodwin Companies, represented tonight by Peter and myself, who have worked for the past decade in the DC area, working on building multifamily properties and projects throughout the area. The site, again, according to the comprehensive plan, is slated for medium density residential development. And the plan that we've proposed is consistent with this medium density residential designation. We have vetted this plan with the Office of Planning, and they have given us an indication that the height and density and intended use that we've built to aligns with this comprehensive plan, future land use map. The business plan is to take the two parcels that have been acquired and build, as I mentioned, the 120 unit affordable building, a mix of studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. This project will include many amenities to the community in the building, including a multi-purpose community room, a fitness center, a bike room for storage of bikes for residents who choose to own and maintain a bike in the building, mail and package rooms, storage areas, a rooftop common area, and a green roof rooftop garden, in addition to solar panels, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, and a landscaped entry along M Street. The zoning that we're getting the PUD to approve is the RA4 designation, which will help the project achieve the height that will allow this level of development to be accomplished. I'll let John chime in here to talk about the project drawing and design.
Thank you, Marcus. So here we've got a view of the front of the building along M Street and across the street from the Arboretum. Our main facade where the entrance is, as well as the east side of the building, which fronts the federal plot. Our primary material is, we've chosen 2 bricks. There's some metal panel infill, as well as an ephes finish up on the upper levels. If you move to the next slide, you can see how these 2 materials wrap around the corner. And then you can see where the ephes material comes down along the back side and is used for the rear of the building as well. You go to the next slide. Here we are looking down M Street towards the Arboretum. You can see us adjacent to the existing properties, the 3-story directly adjacent to the 2-story, and then the newer construction, which is 4 stories plus a penthouse. You can also see the lighter color material as it returns towards the rear of the building. The 5 bays of brick along the front facade, and then the metal panel and glass that we use as an accent over the entry. Next slide. Here again is our material palette. The top left and bottom left are the bricks. The metal panel, we've got a tan that's used as an infill, and then the kind of maroonish red that's used as the accent over the entry. Cement composite panel, which will be used for those colorful pops, and then again over the main entry. A blue-gray metal and window color, and then an off-white ephes color for the remainder. Next slide. Looking at the main floor plan here, this is the first floor. We've got a split level So you come in along what would be the right-hand side of the page where you have most of the public uses, the main lobby, the package room, mail room, fire command center. There is a leasing office, and at the rear, a common room and fitness center, as well as resident storage. Along the first floor, there's also some units at the front of the building and along the left-hand side. You can see the parking at the rear. There will be accessible entrance from both the front and the rear of the building, as well as access to bike storage. Next slide. Here's our second floor level. You can see that there's about a 15-foot grade differential from the front of the building along M Street to the rear at the alley. In the pinkish color at the bottom of the page there, that's the loading bay. Access from the main alley. Residents will be able to access that, as well as the bike room directly from this level. Also in the grayish brown area there, we've got a trash room, which holds enough space to carry containers within that room, as well as some additional storage off of the loading bay. Otherwise, we've got a typical mix here of studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedroom units. Next slide. And then here is the typical floor, which is levels 3 through 8. And again, it's a mix of 1 bedroom studios and 2 bedroom units. Next. Thank you.
So previously, we were asked, especially in the zoning committee meeting 2 weeks ago for this ANC, what are precedent examples of buildings that have a similar height to what we're building and have a roadway width as narrow as the roadway on M Street? So we brought up these, now I'm counting, 7 examples of buildings that have a similar height and a similar street width. Yeah, so, these are 8, 9, 10, and 11 floor buildings that are built on similar streets or streets of similar widths. So one thing we've been asked about is what we'll do about the safety and security of both the property and the surrounding community, because there has been a dumping issue that we were made aware of at the intersection of M Street and Maryland Avenue. So to demonstrate where we will be placing cameras on the building, we have, these 8 circles that demonstrate what the plan is for in the future property, where we'll set up cameras to look at the front, the back of the property, and to the side to help identify anyone and discourage anyone from doing illegal dumping at the end of the street, as well as keeping the property and community in the immediate area of the building safe.
Yeah, Marcus, so here we have, this is a transit figure just showing the walk sheds from the site. So this is the typical area that you could walk to. We have submitted a CTR for this project that DDOT is currently reviewing, and there's some more detailed information there, as well as some transit graphics, details of the overall impact of the site, which will be negligible given it's an affordable senior use with 120 units. So we don't expect many vehicles to be generated by this project. And the project is proposing a comprehensive TDM plan with some additional features, a shuttle service that will run to Bladensburg Road, and there'll be some additional information on that in a few minutes. Do you want to continue, Marcus?
This slide shows a sun study that we're sharing with the community, because a question had come up if there would be a significant shadow cast by the sun at various points of the day and at various times of the year. I think what clearly is shown is that the largest shadow cast is to the north and east of the community by all buildings, including our future proposed building, and the impacts of the shadow are not that dramatic on any adjacent properties. Where it has the most dramatic impact is at 10 a.m., but by 12 p.m. at any time of the year, there isn't a significant shadow cast by the building that we're proposing to build. Another question that came up earlier was, what is the solar system production of the proposed 2,400 square foot solar panel that is planned to be on top of the building? What you can see is that the annual production is 41 megawatts, which is pretty significant production and will help us account for a large amount of the electrical use within the property. And we hope with better production in the summer times, as you see from the monthly production chart, that we can sell some of that electrical energy we're harvesting back to the grid in the times where we're producing the most kilowattage of solar. This again is the rooftop design and the setback. What you see here, this green roof, is actually not the top of the building. Where the solar and the generators are is the actual top of the building. This is all 12-foot setback. So to get this mechanical roof approved, we had to put this 12-foot and 11-foot setback in some parts. This is the 2,400 square foot solar panel. These are all individual condensers for units in the building. This is the generator, roof hatch for access, and then a DOAS system for the air purification system. In the final slides here, we show the affordable rents that the building will be set to achieve. So studios for the 0 to 30% MFI units will be maxed at $660 a month in rent, up to 2 bedrooms, which max at $830. Whereas 60% MFI units, the studios can be priced up to $1,310 a month, and the 2 bedrooms can be priced up to $1,680 a month. That was a question that came up in our first ANC presentation, and we wanted to make sure that we included it here. Finally, we talked about some of the community benefits earlier, but again, the project is fully affordable. 100% of the units are reserved for seniors with an age requirement of being 55 and older. We are aiming to achieve Green Communities Plus. This is a level of certification to really indicate that we're making a beyond required effort to invest in deep levels of energy efficiency across the building. The solar panel, which I think we've said quite a bit about at this point, but we will be harvesting energy on site. We will be doing a lot of work around stormwater management to work in close partnership with the district to correct any existing stormwater deficiencies, to deal with some of the overflow that residents have told us has been an issue when there's a lot of rain, some flooding further to the east of that neighborhood. And then finally, the neighborhood oversight that we'll be doing is the camera system to ensure that we discourage future dumping and pollution in the neighborhood by holding those accountable and just discouraging them from wanting to dump in the first place because we have such a robust camera system installed. And I think this is the final slide, and that is the community input that we've heard were these 5 items that were really the highlights of things that we saw fit to step up and address. The first and foremost is parking spaces. As Will talked about a little earlier, in addition to providing transit subsidies to residents of the building to discourage driving cars, we will be running a bus shuttle for building residents to get them to Bladensburg Road. And the second is, subject to DDOT approval, we'll be constructing a bus shelter for the X8 stop. So that'll be a shelter for people waiting, anyone in the community for that X8 bus route. The second was the garbage dumping issue at the end of the street. And, in the interest of time, I'll, say that we've addressed earlier the installation of security cameras and collaborating with MPD to discourage the dumping. The third is the flooding issue further to the east when there's heavy rains. And again, we'll be working with engineers to mitigate and resolve any flooding that occurs. The fourth is that cell phone service can be spotty in the neighborhood. And we're looking at installing a cell signal booster to the rooftop of the building that will enhance service. The last is that the building is tall. And the reason that we need to have a building of this size is because there are structural complexities to building that require us to move up to building in concrete, which is the plan for this project. And this has major cost implications were we to step down the building, because we wouldn't achieve the economies of scale and the operational efficiency of having a building management office on site. So that is the last slide in the presentation. I guess to kind of get ahead of the Q&A, I saw one question, and I can jump back to an earlier slide about the parking on, I didn't put it here, the parking on site. Did you want to talk about that, Jen, the parking in the rear? The second floor plan shows the parking spaces available to building residents in the rear, in addition to loading area for on-site trash and recycling collection.
Sure. So we'll be providing 10 spaces, and Will can speak more to the occupancy study, but based on the study conducted, we believe that in addition to the street parking, this should be ample parking provided to the residents. And then on top of the parking for the building, we'll also be providing a shuttle initially just during morning hours, and going forward, seeing how that goes, we may expand hours so that residents have options beyond car transit.
Yes, I can expand a little bit on what Jen was mentioning. So we have on the plan here, I think somebody mentioned 8, but there's 10 parking spaces shown at the rear of the building here in a surface lot that will be accessed from the alley. On the far right side of these parking spaces, there's an additional little larger space, and that is set aside for delivery vehicles that may not necessarily use the loading area, such as like a FedEx truck, those types of vehicles, or like a small U-Haul to move in. And then we did do a parking occupancy study for the 2 blocks surrounding the site. That is available in our comprehensive transportation review study if you want to see those numbers. In general, what we found during the peak parking time is overall the neighborhood was about 75% at the peak occupied. This area of the neighborhood in particular, as we get up into sort of the corner going up to the Arboretum, was the least occupied area of the overall 2-block radius that we studied. And there was considerable street parking available. So, you know, while we believe that the 10 spaces on site will generally accommodate the property, there is street parking available for visitors and additional residents if they need to have a car nearby. And we have spoken with DDOT on this, and DDOT is supportive of the proposed parking supply. And the project will have, as Jen mentioned, the shuttle, which will initially run in the morning. We are providing also a robust TDM package for the plan. So that will have different strategies to reduce the reliance on single occupancy vehicles. We're going to have zoning compliant bike parking in the building to encourage bike use, and all the amenities that go along with it. And that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions on that too. That's in general the strategy for accommodating the parking.
So just to clarify, we have how many units, and then we have how many spots for parking?
It's 120 units, and there will be the 10 surface spaces at the back of the building.
Okay. Commissioners, we have a fair amount of questions in the Q&A. Are there any questions directly from you all? I'll let the Q&A go then at this time. So you addressed the parking situation that you're presenting. Here we have a question from Kara Rollins. How will rear foot access impact access to the main alley, which services homes along M Maryland Avenue and 21st Place? There are no sidewalks, which will force people to walk in the alley. And also, do the walking statistics take into account the topography of this area, which includes a significant hill along M Street Northeast?
I can speak quickly to that. The second point on the topography, for that walk shed graphic that we showed, it may not. I can look into that, but it may not take that one specific hill into account, so that it would, a few parts of that route would be reduced slightly. We do have a more comprehensive graphic that's provided in the CTR study that is not only walk, but it's a walk plus transit graphic that uses GIS technology, which does take into account all sorts of factors like that. So that one in the CTR, which should be available in the case record, may provide a little more accurate information, if you will, that take into those really fine-grained details. This is more of a distance based on a walk speed for the walking graphic here. And then can we clarify on that question? Is it asking where will people go when they exit the building? Will they be walking in the alley?
Let's see if Ms. Kara responded. Yes.
Okay. So I believe, so we are working to try to provide a connection. Marcus or Jen, if you want to speak to that, where we're at with that.
I can take that, Will. So this is on the east side of our property, in between the large, I don't know if we can go to the map that just shows the NPS site. But we have engaged with NPS about building a sidewalk similar to one that exists. There's a yellow line covering it, and then extending the sidewalk around the alley to Maryland Avenue. Obviously, we've proposed something to them, but they would need to approve that, and then we would need to permit that.
So if that were to be approved by NPS, and if that were to get installed, then there's sort of a sidewalk, if you will, running along east-west along the building between the parking and sort of the building wall that you can walk on. So there would be a continuous sidewalk along the south side of the building there that would connect to that path, if we can get that to that sidewalk, that will connect all the way down to Maryland. So hopefully that answers the question. If they want to go from the site down to the bus stop, they'd have a sidewalk to walk on.
Okay, and then just a quick one on the topography as we're on it. Cell phone service is nearly non-existent in the triangle starting at about 21st Street Northeast and moving east. How will the building height impact that?
So one of the things we actually, someone else brought this up to our attention in a previous meeting, and we will explore working to get cell phone towers on the property. But to our knowledge, having a building with height wouldn't impact negatively cell phone service in and of itself. But hopefully we would be able to improve service.
And just following up on the parking, does the parking plan, the question is, why does the parking plan fail to account for the 45 units that are currently under construction on this block? Did you all put that into consideration?
Well, I'm not sure. Was that in something you studied, or?
So we'd have to look at that to see what they're providing on site. For the number of parking spaces around sort of the corner that goes around here, there's a lot available essentially. So, I'd have to look in to see exactly what's being provided over there. If there's any gap in their zoning requirement, if you will, if they ask for relief, et cetera. So I can't answer that right now, but we can definitely look into that.
Okay. Going on to another question, Kevin Horgan. On behalf of the ANC, over the past week, I've been conducting a survey with seniors at a local affordable senior apartment building. Their number one concern was space. The seniors that I spoke with are living in 500 square foot, one bedroom apartments, and they're nearly despondent about the small size. They were incredibly upset that anyone would propose building 380 square feet studio apartments. One senior remarked, "We want to be part of living, not just to come here to die." They were incredibly upset with the proposed unit mix, and I share their concerns. I think any senior housing should be minimum one bedroom and a minimum square footage of 650. And I think you all do have a large amount of studios, correct? Yeah. Can you respond to that?
So Kevin, first off, thank you for doing due diligence. Part of our process is we engage with a property management company, in this case, Edgewood Management Company, which manages quite a bit of senior housing. And so as part of that engagement, they'll give us feedback on the size and type of units to program. But we'll certainly, take these, this information back to them and confirm that the unit mix they still like and still they believe that it would be in demand. But we hear your comment about seniors that you spoke to wanting more space. So we'll go back to EMC and talk with them about that.
Is that demand based on the price, the demand for the price of the unit, or the actual size?
So it's I mean, I think it's multi-factor. But what we do is we ask EMC, to tell us what they think, given the constraints of the site, obviously what an optimal unit mix would look like. And then John and his team, works with those assumptions.
Okay. Just because from an outside perspective, it does look like you're just trying to cram as many people as you can into this building to make the most profit. So we're not really getting, I guess, the response that kind of makes it not appear to be that way. But I'll let the residents continue to ask these questions. At the last few meetings, the ANC asked you to bring drawings reducing the height on M Street next to the current condos. Why did you come back to the ANC again without a plan to reduce the height on M Street? Why do you all refuse to directly address the requests from ANC and residents? I think this has been an ongoing concern with this project, that residents or commissioners are providing feedback, but we're not really seeing anything change or any potential options or different plans to kind of take that into account.
Yeah, I think John and our architecture team can speak to what Mark has talked about in terms of the complexity on the construction side of doing some sort of a step down or a setback. We did go back to the management company EMC, and their concern was more on operational efficiency. So as Marcus mentioned, we're going to need to staff the project on site. And so, as you can imagine, there's a minimum amount of money that we have to spend to do that. And so as we decrease the number of units, and again, this is 100% affordable. So as we decrease the number of units, we have less revenue to offset the cost of the building. And so that makes it economically less feasible for us to build the building if we can't have that ratio where EMC wants it to be.
Okay. Well, let's see, just going on the shuttle service that was mentioned, one of the final questions. What impact will the shuttle service have to neighboring properties? Will it be idling or blocking the X8 access?
I think the X8 access is on Maryland, if I've got that right, Will.
Yeah, the X8 stops on Maryland, just south.
Yeah,
so.
I believe that we would be on the M Street side.
Okay, so would it be idling on near the properties there? The X8 runs down M Street.
It shouldn't be. I mean, we can definitely account for that. I mean, there's laws against that in the district for idling for commercial vehicles. So we'll comply with all of that.
Okay. Okay. And in terms of tonight's presentation, my only comment is thank you for adding those figures in for the residents that kind of wanted to know what this project was looking at in terms of renting the units out. I know that was a concern that I had from some folks, and I appreciate those numbers. Commissioners, are there any other questions before we go to a vote on this? No questions from the commission? Okay. So in terms of this one, just making sure I get my proper language on this. 1 second. Okay, so I mean, as the vice chair, I can only say that I know a majority of the residents and commission is not in support of this project, being that our feedback wasn't, might have been taken into account, but we didn't really see any effort to present to us something different with the feedback provided. So at this point, I would move that we do not support this project and move forward to, I'm sorry, the language I'm not that familiar with right now. 1 second, I just want to get this correctly for you all. So just to make it very clear, I move to not support PUD 2221 at this time. Can I get a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, any for the commissioners, for those that support not, I'm sorry, for those that are in agreement to not support PUD, please say aye.
Aye.
For the commissioners that do not support, I'm sorry, that do not want to move forward and not support PUD, please say nay. And then any commissioners that are abstaining.
Abstain.
Okay, so the nays have it on this official vote from ANC 5D. We appreciate you all presenting tonight this project, and we'll be in conversations moving forward if there's any questions in terms of our decision on this. Okay, moving forward with the rest of the agenda. Our final item tonight, I know we've gone past a little bit further than we thought we would, is for the 4th and Penn Street extension request for 2022-2024. Amalia, you've been patiently waiting all night. If you have anything to present on this project, we would appreciate it, so we can quickly make a decision on supporting or not supporting.
Absolutely. So I know in lieu of time, for this request, we're asking for a two-part ask. The first one is to get a vote and resolution in support of the Penn and 4th development. And as part of that request of support of this application, we're asking for the application for Penn and 4th street building, as well as support for the related public space process with DDOT for the alley and public space improvements. And so I guess if I can just pause right there, since we last presented this presentation to you, we heard what you said. We increased the affordable housing percentage from 13% to 15%. And we have not made any other changes to the project other than as part of this application, we are proposing a new use to ask for 25 hotel keys on the Penn building as an additional use to what is already on the project. We currently have retail at 30,000 square feet and residential units at 375. I'm happy to go through the presentation as a whole, but as part of this application, we are also requesting if the South Building PUD extension could be wrapped into this letter of support if you choose to go that route. And I know that, you know, since we last presented this project to you, it's been some time. So I'd like some direction as far as, would you like us to start with the South Building PUD extension, or would you like us to just give high level about the Penn and 4th Street development, since we're asking for this 2-part ask?
Commissioner Rhodes?
Yes, I know we are pressed for time, but if how quickly can you do it?
We can do it as quickly as we need to do it.
Okay, sounds good to me. Let's get it done then.
All right, so let me just share the screen for Penn 4th really quickly, sorry. All right, so as you guys know, we came in here in September to present this project. I have Bill Caldwell, my colleague, that will present alongside me, as well as Jeff Utz from Gulston and Stores. We can just hit it pretty quickly. All right, so as I had mentioned earlier, high level summary of the program. We have 30,000 square feet of retail, 375 units, where we increased our affordable housing IZ percentage from 13 to 15%. This is a LEED Gold building, and part of this application is making sure that we're addressing and incorporating creative design. And part of that is as it relates to discovery and thoughtful placemaking and community engagement on the ground floor. Sorry, I don't know, is it moving? Okay, so to orient you, we are asking for this project to be proposed to be rezoned for MU9A. It's currently zoned for PDR1. It's off of New York Avenue and Penn Street Northeast. As you can see, there are 3 sites that we are proposing to consolidate this 2-part PUD. We have Motel 6 site and the Pascal site that will be one building designed by HKS. And then the other site, Maurice site, will be designed by Michael Marshall Designs. This is just, existing conditions of the consolidated PUD application. Just to give you some context, the first one is a block elevation view from 4th Street. The second view is the gateway view looking southeast, and the third is 4th Street. The fourth is from Penn Street and 5th Street. And the 5th view is 5th Street looking up looking at Penn Street, I'm sorry. Okay, so as it relates to landscape and making sure that, the building is holistically coming together on the ground floor, it's important to note that there's a significant grade change. There's over 5% on 4th Street and 7% on 5th Street. So we had to work closely with our landscape architect team to make sure that the grade created agencies and a ping pong effect that is happening already on the PNC building. And, as part of that, we wanted to make sure that, the alley that is right here, Pascal Way, is gonna have its own connection to new and future gatherings places. As you can see, the 4th Street is, without these blocks of the Paseo, it's a very long street. So we thought incorporating the Paseos to our proposed project on Penn building through the 4th building would be a great play on what's happening at the JBG site. They're currently proposing a a park. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to pull people into the site with these design elements. Okay. These are just two, drawings of how we're planning on activating the public realm with the paseos and the alleys. All right, so this is really how we're thinking about landscape as a whole. So pretty much this aligns with our what works within the UN design guidelines. It builds upon the success of approved PNC project that we did over on the other side of 4th Street. And it uses the same similar design language within the tenant zones. The plan finds points of tangency along the significant grade change for accessible connection shown in the pink arrows. And, we're thinking about, the future parklet also working with the proposed guidelines. As I had mentioned earlier, we're, for the Pascal Way alley, we're thinking of it as an activated alley, and we want to really make sure that we're placemaking and creating, a functional space for gathering, and allow both service vehicles, garage access, and gathering spaces for people to spend time. As part of this alley design, we have been working with DDOT to try to figure out a way to make sure that we're meeting their requirements. And as part of this PUD, as I mentioned, we are asking for the support of the public space, a public space permit for this alley. This is how we're considering this is a rendering of the Paseo. This is looking in the future. We really want to have a vibrant intersection with retail and opportunities for people to engage and converse with one another. Again, this is the pedestrian Paseo, and as part of this this imagery, it's really showing a precedent of examples of vibrant corridors with retail frontage and pedestrian passage. I'm going to hand this off to Bill.
Thanks, Amalia. I'll make this quick. I think you've seen these buildings before, but one of the most important things about this intersection here, the corner of 4th and Penn, is that it's a gateway from New York Avenue. And so we tried to design a building that wasn't a large block. And so you can see the indentation in the middle, which sort of curves the building and softens it, which I think is unique to the buildings in Washington and in Union Market. And so the other important aspect of this building is the number of balconies. We all learned from COVID that outdoor space was a premium, and it made sense for us to incorporate significant balconies in the building for the tenants who are going to live there. Next, please. This is a view looking up 4th Street toward New York Avenue. You can get a better view sort of the end cap here, which shows the southern view looking toward the Capitol, which you can see the balconies there over the adjacent building. By the way, we do own that adjacent building as well. Correct. Next, please. This is a view of the building on 5th and Penn Street. You can see this is a smaller building. It's approximately 90 feet. And it is directly adjacent to the landmark historic structures to the south. It's a very simple, elegant structure. Next, please. This is a view looking north on 5th Street. You can see how we've addressed the adjacent historic buildings by setting the building back from the street and creating the terrace above the retail. And that retail or that terrace emulates the same sort of structures that you have in the landmark historic buildings to the south. Next, please. This is a view of the Paseo looking back into Pascal Way that we're activating per the images that Amaya showed previously. Next, please. As Amaya alluded to previously, we've spent a lot of time working through the functional aspects of Pascal Way and how we're going to animate that. And this plan really illustrates the ground floor plan, shows loading, parking access, which is 03, that little number there, which you can see, and the parking is going below the alley, and we're working with DDOT on that as well. Next, please. This is the next plan up. We're showing residential on the second floor, and then there's a potential second floor retail area to the south on the building on 4th Street. This is a typical floor for both buildings. Again, this is residential.
So not to cut off in the presentation.
Sure.
Were you all requesting a vote from us to approve this extension? We lost quorum with one of our commissioners stepping out of the Zoom, so I don't want to have you all go through the rest of the 17 slides that you have presented without getting that vote from us.
Yeah, we were hoping.
Yeah, they were up for a vote for
Wow.
an extension.
Okay. The only thing that I could say that we would have to move this to the December ANC meeting. But we do request all presentations are at minimum 8 minutes. I mean, at max 8 minutes. So we do appreciate the details, but these kind of presentations are reserved for the zoning committee, where you can go into detail and people can be asking questions at this level. But just because it appears we don't have quorum any longer, one of the issues with Zoom is that people can literally just hop away. I don't want to use up any of your time if we can't get that vote to y'all.
So, okay, so that's we understand completely. We did go to zoning committee. Yeah, we were at zoning committee. So
that's why I was mentioning these kind of detailed presentations are for zoning, but when it comes to our public, we do need them very concise and direct and to the point. So I know Commissioner Blacknell was pressed on the time, and we did have the agenda set for a certain time. And I know we did have y'all on the agenda at the end, but we did get this request last minute. So I don't want to come off rude, but I'm sorry we lost the ability to vote on this matter right now.
Okay, so I do have a question for you, Commissioner Guzman.
Yes.
Since we went to zoning and development last month, and we, presented, a detailed presentation, I understand that for next December's vote, we need to have an 8-slide presentation. Is there, I'm not aware of the process. So please don't pardon me for my ignorance, but is there a place where I guess you have the requirements of the, as far as what you're expecting from us?
In terms of our bylaws, they should be available online in terms of what's going about. But if you have questions in terms of how to present to us moving forward, you can always ask us those questions directly if the information is not readily available on our website. But in terms of anything moving forward, if you all do a presentation, I do recommend you to look at the agenda just to see where your place is on the agenda, so you know what length of time you have, because that was available a week in advance.
Okay. Thank you. We'll be back in December.
Okay, we apologize, but we can't technically make this vote without having quorum. We technically do have quorum, but since Commissioner Cobb is not able to vote on these matters due to his job, that's where we missed the one person we need to make quorum right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I was keeping record of who was on this Zoom, and I just noticed Commissioner Blacknell was no longer on. Just finishing up with this agenda right here. The last portion is community feedback and questions. The only questions I had on here was that Skip Keats, just which commissioners are not standing for re-election. Any of the commissioners can answer that question if they'd like.
Another thing is preliminary election results are up on the Board of Elections website. So you can go check those and refresh them obsessively, like I will be doing.
Thank you, Commissioner. We are getting an additional 2 commissioners with the next commission. Right now we have technically 7 slots. We'll have 9 in the upcoming commission. And final question from Amy Konensberg. I don't think she's on the call anymore, but she does reference a high frequency sound emitted from West Virginia Avenue. I'll look into this with ABRA and MPD. I noticed it one day. I haven't noticed it today, but I'll move forward with that. With that being said, I do ask that I do make a motion. I do move that we adjourn this meeting tonight. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all the ayes have it. Thank you everyone for attending today. We apologize for this last minute quorum issue, but it was unforeseen. I didn't expect Commissioner Blacknell to leave the call, but we'll be in touch for the next meeting.